What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about our top 5 baits for the month of May. Can you guys believe that it's May already? Man, it just seems like this year is just flying by. But it is beautiful out. Springtime, fish are biting, the water's up. You know, it's no more those cold, frigid mornings for the most part, but May can be an awesome time to get out and catch a ton of bass. So today's video, I couldn't break it down to 5 baits, but I have 5 categories of baits. So depending on your fishery, depending on the main forage in your fishery, the type of fishery, you can apply these categories to your lake. So again, May, a great time to be out on the water. It does get a little bit more crowded, right? It's May, a lot more pleasure boats out, a lot more wave runners and sea-doos and that type of thing, you know, personal watercraft. So it can be a little tight sometimes, can be a little busy sometimes, but it's beautiful weather, the fish are biting, and it's a great time to be outdoors. So the month of May, the main thing that I want to emphasize, 2 things actually, before we talk baits. The first thing, depending on where you are in the country, most likely you have fish in all 3 phases of the spawn, right? You already had a few waves in late February, early March, mid-March of the spawn. You might have some actually spawning during the moons, the different moon phases, and you know, full moon, new moon. And then you might have fish that are already, you know, like pre-spawn, right? So we have post-spawn that started early, you got the spawn, and then you have pre-spawn fish still in May and going into June, depending on where you are in the country. So it's quite possible that on your fishery, just like our fishery here, the Tennessee River, Lake Chickamauga, we have fish in all 3 phases. So you can go shallow, you can catch them, throw in reaction, you can go look for them, and you can also go out and fish a little bit deeper and catch those pre-spawn females before they move up. And the second thing I want to talk about is if you are a fishery that has, or fishing a fishery that has shad, you have to think about the shad spawn. That is one of the key things that goes off about this time of the year. Water temps in your mid to high 60s, even low 70s. Early morning, low light conditions, those fish get up, those shad get up on hard rock banks, jetties, rock points. They're up super shallow and they're doing their spawn. And it's a great time to take advantage of those aggressive bass feeding up shallow during that spawn. Again, if you're a late riser, you know, you get up on the water about 7:30, 8 o'clock. The sun's been up for quite a while. You might miss it. Typically, it's a low light deal, so you have to be first light, be at your spot, and you'll see the shad doing their thing, and you'll see the blow-ups. So that really comes into play if you have shad in your fishery. We're going to talk about that here shortly. So my number one category of bait is going to be a spinnerbait. Okay, now the reason being, I just talked about it, the shad spawn. Early morning, low light conditions. I want to get up shallow. I want to get up on that hard, shallow bottom and throw something that's not particularly gonna get caught up, right? So this is fairly weedless. This is actually, this one's the Demiki, the TOT. You can see on all these 3 different versions I give you, they're double willow, high flash, high vibration, really good paint schemes for the bait fish, right? So that Megabass SV3, this one you actually don't need a trailer on. It has those longer appendages. So if you want a compact spinnerbait, real finesse spinnerbait, that one is awesome. And then if you want some painted blades, a lot of flash, that Nichols Pulsator is an awesome spinnerbait. But again, I kind of touched on it. When I'm out early, I'm out on the water before the sunrise, I get to that spot where I know those shad are going to be spawning. I don't want to throw like I mean, I can name all sorts of different baits. I don't want to throw a bait that has a high percentage rate of getting hung up there on the juice, on the spot, because I'm either going to have to, one, break off, which I probably will, or two, I got to go up and unhang it, and that just destroys your entire spot, entire morning, pushes those shad away, and you've kind of shot yourself in the foot. So I really, really recommend throwing that spinnerbait, that shad color profile spinnerbait early morning if you have shad in your fishery. And then another great one, I put it in the same category, you can go with some kind of bladed jig. I love the jackhammer. I love the Evo Elite, the Z-Man's new one, but I'm going with a spunk shad on the back. I'm going with some kind of shad color. Again, electric shad on the back. A chatterbait is a great bait to throw up there as well. So if you're a guy that doesn't like to throw a spinnerbait, but you find yourself in those conditions, maybe you have a little bit of grass coming up and you can rip that bait through, but that chatterbait is an awesome alternative if you don't want to throw the spinnerbait, okay? So that's my number one category. Number two category, the swim bait, okay? Some type of swim bait. Now, we'll start bigger and we'll go smaller. So if you're a guy that is in that pre-spawn phase, you want to catch your PB, you want to put just big fish in the boat, you want to target those big fish, it's really hard to beat some kind of glide bait this time of the year. Okay, either the Antidote by Bait Sanity, the S-Waver 168, both of these are great glide baits. They don't break the bank. They're fairly inexpensive in their category. They work extremely well. Giants eat them, and you don't really need a specific swim bait rod and reel to throw these. You can throw these on your favorite jig rod, you know, a favorite, I don't know, let's go heavy power rod, right? Okay, so the Antidote and the S-Waver, very, very easy to throw. My kids throw these guys right there. If you're a soft bait guy, you don't want to deal with the real twitch, the burrito. Either the 6-inch or the 5-inch. This is the 6-inch. The 5-inch is another great bait. It can downsize a little bit. And again, these are baits that you can throw. The 6-inch, you probably need to throw an extra heavy. You're kind of on that borderline if you need to throw a specific swim bait rod. But the 5-inch, a lot lighter, a lot smaller. You can throw that on your favorite jig rod as well. But a swim bait, if you're looking for those bigger bites, you want to target those bigger fish. This time of the year, a lot of those smaller males, right? Those smaller bucks are up shallow. And if you want to eliminate those bites and just truly fish for the big ones, I mean, granted, you'll catch plenty of those size fish on the bigger baits. They're not afraid to swipe at it, try and eat it. They will eat it. But if you're looking for a higher percentage, go with that bigger bait. On the flip side, you can downsize a little bit. The Magdraft. I almost put the 8-inch in here. I have one hanging right here for me to tie on. That's the 8-inch. I love throwing that 8-inch Magdraft this time of the year. Again, technique specific swim bait rod you're gonna need. But if you want to throw the 6-inch, okay, either the weedless or the traditional belly hook rig, this is on a beast hook, fairly weedless. Again, these are gonna work well around your laydowns, around your docks, skipping around. There's a lot of cover in the water, so if you're a guy that's going to be fishing in around docks and fallen trees or brush piles, that sort of thing, you know, rigging it weedless with a beast hook is awesome. Has a great swim. It skips fairly easily. And then if you're a guy that's fishing open water, maybe you're fishing for spotted bass, that belly hook is an awesome bait as well. But the 6-inch Magdraft, if you're a guy that doesn't want to commit to the big boy, that's a killer bait. And then last but not least, some kind of underspin, right? I kind of talked about it a little bit with the spinner bait. Obviously a lot less flash than a spinner bait, but some kind of underspin. Again, these fish are eating bait fish. They're up shallow. They're going to be feeding up for that spawn, either pre-spawn or post-spawn. They're all skinny. They need to feed up. throwing some flash, throwing some vibration, helps your bait stand out from the thousands of real shad swimming around, okay? The swim bait. All right, number 3, a crankbait. Now again, these fish, say they're pre-spawn, right? The big female's gonna be out a little bit deeper. They're gonna be hanging on those channel swings, those breaks, right on that deeper edge before they pop up and go to the back to do their thing, do their spawn. On the post-spawn, on their way out, same thing. You know, we talked about it, well, we will talk about it in our probably where do fish go in early summer transition, but you gotta be thinking post-spawn, right? May, you're thinking some of these fish are in that 3rd phase, that post-spawn phase. You know, some fish are gonna stay back, they're gonna stay shallow, and that's gonna be your fish later on you catch flipping and pitching, punching, throwing a frog, throwing, you know, way back into shallow cover. Those are those fish. And then on the flip side, you're gonna have those fish that go back, they return out deep, and eventually those are the fish you're gonna catch out on ledges, right? On your hair jigs, your flutter spoons, your deep cranks, your Carolina rigs, that sort of stuff. So we're gonna, after this, during that summer, you're gonna have those fish split, right? I'm not gonna give you a percentage, but that's what's gonna happen. So as far as a crankbait, again, all 3 phases, right? We can go little, or we can go big, shallow, and deep, right? So I have a couple different options. Let's talk about the shallow option. Again, beating that horse. Those fish are up there feeding. They're after baby bluegill, they're after baby crappie, baby sunfish, shad, silver sides, whatever the smaller bait fish you have in your fishery, that's what they're up there killing and eating, okay? One of my favorites, probably one of the most shallow square bills there is on the market. Little bit of knock, that is the Demiki BTC 50. I'm talking like 2 foot or less. You know, this is the time of the year. We're gonna talk about topwater here in a little bit, but again, these fish are shallow, right? That guy has an amazing swim. It's really hard to get hung up because it's got such a shallow dive angle, but again, it has a little bit of rattle in it, kind of a little knocker in there. But again, bait fish colors. Again, I will link my favorite colors from all of these baits down below in the video description. But this time of the year, I'm switching from those reds we talked about the last couple months. Now I'm going bait fish colors, okay? So that BTC 50, another killer bait. If you want a shallow run-in, this is like a 4-ish foot range bait. But if you want a square bill that has a ton of sound, that Atlas 55. What's cool about this bait, besides the cool colors, it comes with BKK short shanks, okay? Look at those hooks. Listen to that bait. Extremely loud. So if you're a guy that wants to jump up on a rock bank and just burn up the bank and throw a loud square bill, that one is awesome. And then this guy right there, hear that? Just that one knocker. Can't do talk about shallow square bills this time of the year without talking about the River to Sea Biggie. You guys know how much we love that bait. A couple other awesome options that I will kind of switch into as we get warmer. It's gonna be that Spro, that Speed Demon, that's a great one. And then that another great alternative, we threw it all fall and winter, was that Bill Lewis ATV, either the 1.0 or the 1.5. Those are great shallow water crankbaits. Now let's talk about deep. If you're a guy that's fishing for those post-spawn fish back there out off those ledges, or you're fishing for those pre-spawn fish coming in, some kind of deep crank. That's that Tactical DD by River to Sea, our bait that we designed for cold water. It works just as well in May, right? I mean, it works really well in summer, but it has a real tight action. So if you're on a fishery that has colder water and it's starting to warm up, you're gonna go with a tighter wobble crankbait. Next up is gonna be that Rapala DT16. I actually forgot one. I thought I grabbed it, but I didn't. Again, that's gonna have a little bit wider wobble. It's a true, almost like it's a slow float. So when you get down to that depth and you pause it, remember, burn, 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 pause. We want to get real reactive with all of these crankbaits. It kind of just slowly floats up, and that drives those fish crazy. And then if you're on a lake that, if you're a guy that's on a lake with warm water, right? You're kind of in that summer transition, go with that Strike King 6XD. Real aggressive, wide kick, but that 6XD thumps loud, gets down deep, and that is a great alternative for the warmer water. Okay, so crankbait. So we got spinnerbait slash chatterbait, we got swimbait, crankbait. Now we get to talk about topwater. Really the first time that this year we're talking about topwater. Hopefully some of you guys were already starting to throw it toward, you know, the end of April if you're on a fishery that was warming up quickly. But again, those fish are up there shallow. I talked about it with this guy right here, right? They're up there in less than 2 foot. When you start throwing a little popper, bloop, bloop, over their head, they have to eat it. So now we're finally introducing topwater back into our arsenal for the remainder of the year. But this, you know, we're gonna ease into it, right? We're not throwing a lot of quick moving or fast moving topwaters. Again, these fish are shallow. Maybe they're just coming up. They might be a little finicky, not being really used to all the boat traffic and maybe the clearer water, the sounds, all that stuff. Sometimes these fish aren't comfortable being up there for long periods of time. So you want to go super subtle and ease your way into throwing your real loud buzz baits and stuff. We'll talk about more of that as we talk about summer transition. So for me, I'm starting out with a popper this time of the year. First topwater bait I'm throwing of the year is going to be a popper. That's that World Pop. You see that flash boost going on. Again, it's got that foil suspended in that bait. One of my favorite poppers. Wherever there's cover, wherever there's shade, those fish, even though they're up shallow, kind of maybe they're getting ready for the spawn, or maybe they're post spawn, they're going to be in that shade. They're going to ambush from those shade lines. So whether it be a marina dock line or a dock line or just a shaded bank, a tree line, throw in a popper, bloop, bloop, let it sit. That's what's so magical about having that flash boost. You don't have to be doing anything with that bait, and it has that scale flicker and makes that super, super subtle, but you get amazing bites and get those fish triggered up on that guy right there. And then another one, Pop Max from Megabass, 2 of my favorite poppers. This one has a cup face with some holes in it, so if you are a guy that likes to slowly walk a popper side to side, it's gonna leave a little bit of a bubble trail, right, with those good water temps. But a popper is my first topwater I'm grabbing of the year. You can probably catch fish on a buzzbait. It's probably not your best option because if you get near that ambush point or you get near that area where they should be, a lot of times adding a pause into your cadence will get those fish to react. And a buzzbait, typically, when you stop reeling, that thing sinks. You can't really do that. So that's more of a warmer weather, warmer water buzzbait when those fish are really, truly chasing down things. So that's why I go with something like the Whopper Plopper, where I can actually bloop, 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 pause, let it sit there. Bloop, 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 bloop. I'm not covering a ton of distance really quickly, and I can keep this bait in that key area longer. So if I am throwing a chuck and wind style topwater, I'm going with one that I can pause and it won't sink, okay? So a Whopper Plopper over a buzzbait. One of my favorites, now that we're talking about topwater, we have to introduce the frog, right? With the warmer water, you got water levels coming up. A lot of us around here have had grass growing up on the shoreline. Now that they got the water up, now you have a lot of that grass submerged. So those fish are up in that grass. Now it's not cheesed out, it's not peaked out on the surface yet, but there is grass. So you'll have a hard time throwing some of these shallow baits in the grass, but those fish are in there. So if you're a guy that wants to catch them on a frog, if you're a guy that wants to fish heavy cover or back in the grass, throwing some kind of frog, Finesse frog, is key this time of the year. So I have 2 for you. I have the Jackal Kyera little small frog, little finesse frog. Again, we're going bait fish colors. And then a true poppin' frog, that gavacho, got that cupped face. Again, I will trim that longer midsection down, but this is a walking frog, bloop, 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 just like the popper, except you're not having those treble hooks on there. So, you know, throwing that popper in open water is awesome. Throwing it around cover is great. Throwing this in cover is awesome as well. So hopefully you guys are stoked about throwing a frog. I love throwing topwater. I love throwing a frog. It's just one of my favorite ways to catch them, having those jumping out of the water, just those surface explosions are just, it's what got me hooked early on as a kid. And I can't wait. I look forward to it every year. Okay, for you guys that are true, gotta throw finesse, I did add a category in for you. So we got spinnerbaits and chatterbaits, we got swimbaits, we got crankbaits, and we got topwater. And then last but not least, I didn't forget about you guys. I added some finesse, okay? So just like those same scenarios that I talked about earlier, sometimes those fish won't eat the whopper plopper, or they won't eat the BTC 50, but they're up super shallow. You can throw a wacky rigged stick bait. My bait of choice, electric shad or green pumpkin black flake Senko. I have this rigged up right now on a weighted head. That just helps that bait, allows me to fish it a little bit faster. It still has that same great fall. You know, those arms are kind of flapping, but rigging it Texas rig, weedless, works really well. Skipping up underneath those laydowns where those fish are pulling to the cover works extremely well. And then a shaky head. If you're a guy that wants to be throwing something with some good bottom contact, throwing that net bait. You guys know that we love that net bait, missile baits, the magic worm. Those are probably two of my favorite shaky head worms at the moment. That is a killer option as well. Got that Dirty Jigs shaky head on there, good stout hook, 14, 16, 18, 20 pound test. Even again, if you're fishing for big fish around cover, having something with a good gaff hook in it and some good line behind it will help get those big fish out. Hopefully you guys are on those big pre-spawn females, and hopefully you guys are on those aggressive post-spawn fish where you can have some of the best fishing, catch the most fish of the entire year. But guys, that is it. Actually, one more. I almost forgot. If you are a BFS guy, you like the bait finesse stuff, you cannot miss the Karashi. You know, we've talked about this bait now for a year or two. This is an awesome finessey, I'm gonna call it like a subsurface walking bait. It's a twitch bait. And if you're out throwing reaction right now and you have a BFS setup, get yourself 1 or 2 or 3 of these, because these are life-changing. The fish just haven't seen that kind of subsurface walking deal, and the water's warming up, they're chasing bait fish. This is when this bait really shines. I did leave it out because you do need a specific setup. You need a bait finesse setup to throw it. I mean, you could really throw it on a spinning rod if you want, but it's so much better throwing it on a bait caster and be able to walk it like you would normally your favorite topwater walking bait. But that guy right there. But guys, the month of May, it's an amazing time to be out on the water, be outdoors, catch a bunch of bass, and possibly catch the biggest fish of the entire year. Those big pre-spawn females, they're all bulked up, they got big old bellies, and now is the time to get out there and catch them. I will link, like I said, all these baits down below in the video description, our favorite colors, any hook upgrades or anything like that, our favorite trailers for the spinner baits or chatter baits. But that'll all be down below in the video description. But guys, I appreciate the support. Matt and I appreciate the support. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys are getting out either on the bank or in your kayak or on the boat and catching fish this year. Guys, if you learned something from this video or you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.